Welcome. Habits can be adjusted without heavy equipment or a huge investment. We wonder, could that be useful for you? Over here is
Jonathan Logan. I'm a high performance coach, author, educator, hypnotist, and founder of the Life Success Tools podcast.
And I'm Erik Forrester, next step strategist, working with people in various stages of life who are stuck, stalled, and stagnant. Let's get right to it, Jonathan. Our perspective today is, or our mission, if you will, is how each of us can make small, simple, and satisfying adjustments to habits we already have, which may work, which may move our needle a little more quickly than wholesale and dramatic changes.
Absolutely, Erik. The thing of it is there's three basic kinds of habits. There's an identity habit, like I am a runner, I'm a writer. Or there's process habits, which is I'm going to go ahead and build a routine that I go ahead and eat or take my nutrition, everything each morning with my meal. Or there's an outcome habit, which is I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Those are the three kinds of habits.
I'm trying one right now. I'm working on one right now, Jonathan. I'm attempting to minimize or eliminate extra sugar from my diet.
Nice. That's a very laudable goal. Gandhi did that, and if he can, you can. And the thing of it is, Erik, I give you three quick steps to do that. Number one is remove all the sugar from your house, because if it's not in your house, you're really not going to run next door with a cup and say, "Oh, may I please have some sugar?" Right? The second is that if you get a craving, you can do something called box breathing, and you can find 1,000 short videos online about how to do that after we're done today. But box breathing. And the third is that you'll notice that if you can just wait 3 minutes, the craving will go away. You'll get distracted by something else. It's really easy. And then you can celebrate, woo, I don't need sugar anymore.
Jonathan, that's fantastic, because we're going to leave everybody today with three pretty simple adjustments that can be made. And what you just said there fits right in. So maybe at the end of our time, I'll ask you to bring those back as specific examples of what we're going to hit today. Would that work?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I'm curious that you mentioned simple steps and those particular things with sugar. I'm wondering, you have in the past, you shared one with me that I laughed uproariously when you first told me, but guess what? I do it now, and it's pretty cool. I think you know the one I'm talking about. Would you mind sharing that?
I don't mind at all. I had to, my dentist told me that, that I should floss. And I said, well, how often or what, why? And tell me, because I didn't know. This was years ago. And he said, you only floss the teeth you want to keep. So I had to add flossing as a new, right? I'm like, oh God, I had to add flossing as a new habit. And so what I did was I was already brushing my teeth twice a day, once in the morning, once the night before I go to bed. And I took a piece of floss and I wrapped it around the head of the toothbrush. Now you can't brush your teeth with the floss on there and not recognize, oh, I'm supposed to floss. So you have to take the floss off, then you just floss your teeth, and then you brush your teeth, and it's an instant shift.
Well, I would say instant, yes, but you have to remember to wrap, or maybe do you wrap the floss around the brush after you've brushed, like at one time, so it's already there? Or see, I would get stuck by remembering to put the floss around the brush when I'm gonna. Okay, you got me there. So this is interesting. So when it comes to habits, Jonathan, I don't know, maybe some people that are listening will identify with this. I don't know how many books on habits I have. I've got a couple. There's two really basic ones, by the way, if anybody's interested. One is called The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg, and the other is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And there are others, but those two books are fantastic. Yes. However, we're not following the books today. We're just kind of doing stuff that, in my experience, works. And what I've done with the various books or articles or blog posts or whatever that talk about habits is I go right to the page or the chapter or whatever, where there's a checklist or where there's a framework or where this is what you do, steps, right? And I write them down. by hand. I hand write them down in my journal on a piece of paper, whatever, and I'm
Yep.
good to go, except I never go. I actually never do them. Well, I think about them for a day. Maybe I do it. I don't know. I'm just being honest, and I think maybe, you know, that's what I do. And when I discovered what we're gonna unpack in just a moment, it changed the way I do things. I actually do those things now. So I don't know, Jonathan. What do you think about that?
Well, I want to know what really works, Eric. Come on. Don't
Yeah.
hold back. Let's hear
Well,
it.
you know what? I'm going to go there in just a second. There's a question here. How long does it take to build a new habit? I've always heard it takes 21 days. Is that actually true? Is that a myth? Well, oh boy, we could go deeply into all kinds of stuff. And I don't have the statistics in front of me right now. The 21 days is definitely, there's a significance to that in terms of I believe it's our brain and our memory and things
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jonathan asked the key question, what really works? And I have a snarky answer, Jonathan. Is that okay?
Sure.
My answer is what works is what you're willing to do, right? So
Yes,
if you're willing
exactly.
to do 21 days, I'm going to say just do 1 day or 1 hour or
No.
or 5 minutes, right? That would be useful, and
Yep.
I found that it works. So here's the how shall we say it? Um, Here's another comment. I like this. Tomorrow, habits are
Yep.
tomorrow's reality disguised as today's routine. Thank you, Donald. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. Yep.
that's good. You know what's wonderful about doing these live streams, Jonathan, is we get comments from the listeners that are way more profound than anything that I'm going to say. I won't speak for you. I'll speak for myself.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
Here are the three elements that I want to make sure everybody takes in today, and maybe you could put, and they're the kind of thing you can put into practice literally be sometime today. And
Yeah.
that is, I call it a loop. I actually call it a behavior loop. And
Mm.
I didn't make it up, and I compiled it. I don't know who to give credit to, but it has three elements. The first one is behavior. The second element is experience, and the third element is belief.
Mm.
Most everything we do regularly, like habits, there's a behavior that we've done multiple times, brushing our teeth. Now, the
Right.
experience, Jonathan has told us if we put the floss around the toothbrush the night before or whatever, now our behavior will include the experience of flossing, brushing, and then flossing. And then our belief is, hey, when I brush and then floss, my visits to the dentist are a lot better. And it's already right there. I don't have to wrestle with wet hands, wrestle with the floss dispenser and pull out the thing with my hands are wet. I'm speaking
Right.
for myself. I don't know if that's anybody else's truth.
Oh, yeah.
And there we go. So behavior, experience, belief, and they can be in any order. But here's the key piece. We don't have to change all three of those to begin to adjust a habit. We
Mhm.
can just pick one of them. If you imagine the three of them forming a loop, or like a tire, we want a tire to be completely round and substantial to drive the car. However, we don't necessarily want a habit that's no longer working for us or no longer relevant or maybe not even acceptable, whatever. We need to make
Mhm.
a change. So we need to do something about breaking that loop.
Right.
And all we need to do is change one of the elements, our behavior, our experience, or our belief. And that loop becomes my favorite shape, a spiral. It opens
Nice.
up. And now possibility enters the conversation big time. Now,
Yep.
possibility and some responsibility, because
Mm.
just opening that one and saying, okay, I'm going to change this, eh, that might make you feel good. It's like me going to the checklist of things to do and actually not doing them. The thing is, we make that adjustment.
Right.
Jonathan, does that bring to mind anything for you?
It absolutely does. And I think, when we talk about changing a habit, for example, the best way to change a habit is to replace it with a better one. It's like you're going to have a habit. All have hundreds of habits. We just don't know it because they become automated. So, for example, my dad used to not take his medication. So he made a new habit. He replaced his habit of going and getting this pill box and that one and this and opening it up. And he got one of those little things that has the days of the week, and he put his pills in it, morning, afternoon, evening, and he put it on his placemat at the dinner table. So when he sat down to eat, he could take his medication because it was right there. He changed the habit by adding a newer, better habit than the old one of having to search for things. Erik, how does that work for you?
I've actually done something just like that myself. And I was thinking of another one, Jonathan, and Donald pointed out here that this particular cycle never stops. The question is, which part of the loop are you willing to change? Well, here's an example. I was trying to come up with one that may be universal to folks. And imagine that if you're someone who needs to let's say drive to work or go to work or leave the house and do something regularly. Let's say you're going to work. So you drive from home to work. And then on your way home from work, you frequently either maybe pick up the kids, or you stop at the store to get some food, or maybe you stop and get a coffee or a snack, whatever. And then you go back home. So there's three elements: home, work, some sort of stop along the way. And let's say that particular day you're doing that, and you're leaving work and going to the store, and the road you normally take is closed, or the traffic is backed up or something. And now it's like, well, I really have to get to the store. I've got to have such and such for the kids or whatever. Well, you have to take a different route. You maybe go a block over, and you realize on that block, oh my God, there are no speed bumps on this block. Or, wow, those are really cool looking houses. Or actually, there's no stop signs or signals on that street, so you can get there even more quickly. Right? You never thought, I'm going to break a habit today, or I'm going to change. But all of a sudden now you have another alternative. Yep. And that's how simple. Granted, it wasn't what you wanted to do to take a different route, but maybe that extra route or the new route might be better, or at least more interesting. Right. And if we look in our lives for those places where we can just make that slight adjustment, doesn't really change much. It's surprising what can come up from there.
Absolutely. I remember hearing this years ago, and I forget, I wish I remember who said it, but they said basically, if it's something that you need to do on a day by day or month by month or whatever basis, it's really important to you, turn it into a habit, because a habit reduces the friction of getting it done. A habit reduces the friction of remembering to do it. And it takes it from something that you have to do to something that you just do because, as Donald said below, and we know that you become the behaviors that you have, right? And so if you become the habits that you have, if you're someone who has great habits of eating, low sugar, great habits of working out, great habits of saving money, great habits of loving your kids and your spouse and telling them that you love them and doing nice things, if you create those habits, your life just becomes better. People with great lives have great habits.
So Jonathan, are you saying this is not what I was expecting? Are you saying that it can affect our identity?
100%, right? I talk about this with my smokers. So when I do smoking cessation, someone says, I'm a smoker. And I'm like, really? Because it seems to me that you probably sleep 8 hours a day. Are you a sleeper? They laugh. Like, what else do you do? Do you work? Oh, you're a worker? Why do you identify as being a smoker? So how about you identify as a clean and healthy breather? How about you identify as someone who takes care of your body? When we change our identity, we change our habits.
That I love that. I love that. I'm a smoker. Don't you sleep? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you know what? That's kind of this whole point of our talk today is that just sounds absurd, right? Well, of course you sleep. Now I might not sleep well. Well, maybe right. There could be all those issues, and most of us, we're looking in our mirror so closely we can't see that, and we need someone else who creates a window into another way of looking at things. Like when you mentioned to that person who says, I'm a smoker, well, what about sleeping? Oh, and it might well be useful for that person to start telling his family, hey, I'm a sleeper. And they all laugh and go, probably look at him like, at the same time, that might release him or her from some of the stigma of smoking. Who knows, right? But
That's right.
when you move into that area, all kinds of things can begin to change, right?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
So,
You know, think of it as our identity. Oh, sorry. The
no,
various identities that we hold of ourselves, right? You're a father, you're a husband, you're a professor, you're a strategist, you're a coach. The things that you identify yourself as constellate or hold in place like magnets who we are in our behavior. We live up to our identities.
so I like it. You just said magnet. So this loop that we're talking about, the behavior, experience, belief loop, if each of those places is like a magnet, and for just a moment we remove that magnet and let that spot open or
Right.
expand or actually, break apart, then we have the spiral. And now
Right.
we have a vortex, if you will,
Right.
of of energy,
Right.
right?
Right.
Wow, I
Yep.
had not thought this is so, that's why I'm loving these conversations, Jonathan, because I hadn't thought about that beforehand. And as I'm thinking about this in terms of the various lists and the resources out there for habits, ladies and gentlemen, are really fabulous. But the reality is, when you when we have been able to make an adjustment, make a slight change, make a simple change,
Right.
make a satisfying change, now we may be really ready for those larger frameworks and those things that give us the heavy equipment, give us the tools that we need. But we don't necessarily need those really heavy duty tools or huge investments to actually begin to make a difference.
Yeah.
Here's a comment from Donald. Freedom isn't the absence of habits, it's the presence of the habits that free you from becoming a prisoner of your impulses. Boy, who knew
100%.
we had philosophers and poets in our midst?
I love it.
Not
I
speaking
love it.
about you and me, Jonathan, our other people. Yeah, Donald, that's really beautifully said. And
Yeah.
and freedom is the key here. That loop, and don't get me wrong, circles and tires and those are great, but they actually indicate something that continues
Mhm.
ad infinitum, and we want a tire to do that. We
Right.
want circles to do that, and that's fantastic. When it comes to being human, when it comes to growing as a human, when it comes to adjusting and um, coming from the musical standpoint, being able to jam with the world and the universe and our
Right.
society and our spouse and our family, and you know, there's got to be some flexibility, and there's got to be some ability to adjust. And I think that's what has motivated us talking about this today, Jonathan. Does that resonate with you?
100%. I would add, here's what I would add to that. That people might say, "Oh, it's so hard to make a habit." It's like, really? Because you've made thousands of them so far. When I talk to my
Oh,
smokers, I'm like, you didn't used to, when you were 3 years old, you weren't a smoker, hopefully, it's right. So, bad image there. It's like, so you created the habit. You created the habit of the way you drive to work, like you said. You created the habit of what you eat with the sugar or not sugar. We've already created all these habits. The question is, are you at cause or are you at effect? Are you at cause, creating the life that you want, sort of like Donald's talking about, or you're at the effect of just unconscious habits that you just happen to pick up along the way, like barnacles on a whale, or rocks in your shoe. We don't want those. So the fact of the matter is, there's a deep secret to all of this. You can change your habits like that. If you create a habit that you like, that you're motivated by, that you're excited about, you can create it very, very quickly. And what you'll notice, and this is the secret inside the secret, is that once you can change something, you can change anything. You can be, do, and have what you want by, exactly as Erik is saying, the behavior, experience, belief loop, and you apply these things. And next thing you know, you have taken your life back and you can go create and be at cause for what you want to create.
yeah. Oh, that's great. And I just want to I've been using the order of behavior, experience, belief. The loop can be broken in either of these places.
Right.
The,
Right.
maybe a simpler beginning place is the behavior. However, if your experience is you go to a particular place or do a certain thing that causes you or invites you or inspires you or whatever to do something that isn't really optimal for you, you may want to change that experience and not go there or do that.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm leaving that as open as possible, because that could be a lot of things. If you have a belief that says that, I can't or I shouldn't do that,
Right.
well, I would look at that. Again, belief systems are unique and personal and significant. But if the word should is involved in that belief, you may just
Right.
want to look at that.
Yeah.
I would just leave it there, because that's probably another whole conversation.
Yeah.
And the reality is, wherever you enter could work. And if the first place you enter in the belief, behavior, experience doesn't work, then try one of the other three.
That's right.
Oh, excellent. I love this quote. We first make our habits, and our habits make us. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And I think that's a good place for us to begin to close here, Jonathan. I just want to reiterate that one way, certainly not the only, but the way that I have found works, and I think Jonathan would agree, is to look at this loop that we're talking about: our behavior, our experience, and our belief. If there's one of those that can be adjusted toward a habit that you want, or away from a habit that needs adjustment or maybe needs elimination, those can work. I would just say sometime today, think about that. Think about something that you do automatically, like Jonathan said, maybe brushing your teeth, maybe going to pick up the kids and coming home, whatever that
Yep.
might be. And just notice, could I make a slight adjustment to this? And you know what? If you pick up the kids and you go home a different route, undoubtedly they're going to say, Mom or Dad, we're going the wrong way. And you can say, I know. And you can invite them into a world of curiosity. But wait a second, that's another conversation as well.
Yes.
So with that
Yes.
said, Jonathan, I think we're just about at time here. Do you want to have a parting shot for us?
Yeah, here's what I would say. The first thing to do in my mind, what I would do is I would identify the habits that make you feel like you're winning and pat yourself on the back for those, right? Oh, I work out, or I do these things. The second I would do is I would say, are there any habits in your life that you want to change? Do you feel like you aren't doing the exact thing that you want to do with that particular habit? If not, then change it. Find a place to change it. Change your environment to support it, as Erik talked about, like my dad, and also my dad with the nutrition. He puts it on his plate, puts it on the table, and start small. You got this. You can do this. What do you think, Erik?
Yeah. I think that, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that, I think, brings us to a close today. Your beliefs, your behavior, your experience can all be looked at. They don't have to be thrown out or discarded or burned or whatever. Just look at them and notice where an adjustment maybe significant, or maybe it brings another question to your mind about that. And remember that loop that those create can be adjusted and very easily become a spiral. So for my friend over here,
Jonathan Logan.
and me over here, Erik Forrester, thank you for joining us today. And as we like to say, crave curiosity, anticipate awe, and weave wonders into your life today. Thank you.